Micah Sampson.
Yay!
So,
Applause.
Micah, I don't remember like what your official title was. Were you a field producer, an associate producer?
I got called a bunch of different things, and those are definitely the least offensive of all of them. But I fell somewhere in between AP, associate producer and story producer.
Okay. You joined us in season 2, and I think it was for the Rothland Island, like
Yes,
Ireland episodes.
that was my first. And by the way, my first time traveling outside the country was,
Really?
and this was my first show. I'd never done any other work before, and yeah, they told me I can go with you guys and travel the world, and I was like, do I get my own hotel room? And they're like, yeah. And it's like, what am I, a rock star? And then my first day, or the first that y'all remember the ferry ride and all that stuff, and everybody like crossing themselves because they all thought we were going to capsize on getting there. And all I could think was like, oh man, how cool! I'm not going to die in Beaumont, because it was like that was a little touch and go, you know.
Yeah.
Well, and I remember you guys were lovely to me when I first got there. I remember Snapper Steve Robinson. I was so green that do y'all remember the rumor was that I was the boss's son, because
Yeah.
there's no and somebody this ignorant out here, and like y'all swore, you believed it. You're like, there's no way this kid is here and not like somebody's son.
Yeah, you were the mole. You were supposed to be like the spy for production.
Yeah, exactly. And Steve Robinson found out real quick because everyone was shouting into their lapels or like into their shirts, and I was like, "What's everybody shouting at?" And then like Steve shoved a walkie in my chest, and he was like, "Always stay on walkie." And I just looked at him, and I was like, "I get a walkie-talkie?" I was so honored. I had no idea. So yeah, it was a good intro.
So I think you did about 10 or 11 episodes with Dustin and myself before Dustin left. So I think the first episode that Dustin really wasn't a part of the show was when we went to Jamaica. And so it was like all the way up until Jamaica that all three of us worked together.
Yeah.
Wow.
We were like family out there for a while, for a long time, for like over a year and a half or
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, I covered a lot of ground. I mean, truly, I lived with you guys. I had like separation when I was finally not on it too. Like there was and y'all meant especially a lot to me because I'd never been with another, group of on-camera people, and I'd never been with a crew. Like as far as I knew, you guys that was my world. So it was truly like, it was special. It was awesome.
So you made an appearance on one of your first episodes with us. You made an appearance as I believe Dustin was rolling up cable at Rothland Island Manor House, and they were shooting like the B-roll of like us setting up or something. And here comes Micah in the background, walking through the door like.
Yeah, that was the least offensive thing I did there. I remember, do y'all remember this? I had stayed up. I was quite excited about my first tour of duty, and I had stayed up many nights, unwork related. And where there was one on the last day of filming, everyone was trying to get everything set up, and I think I like somehow just sort of dozed off for a second and knocked a painting to a certain degree and like caused a ruckus. And everyone's like, so if Micah's done falling asleep standing up, we can make the show now.
It happens.
Yeah. I feel like that would have happened a lot. And Dustin, both of you guys actually were very patient with me. And Dustin you were the sweetest about it. Because like I'd do something, you'd be like, hey, Micah. And I'm like, yeah, yes, sir. And you're like, hey, buddy, so you're in the shot. And I was like, oh, can you see me? You're like, yeah, we have these things called night vision. And also we have thermal cameras. So yeah, we see you.
We could find you pretty easily, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. It was always easy to determine. You're like, okay, well, that's definitely not, that is Micah.
Right, it's not paranormal.
Nope. We're going to watch him stumble around for a second, and there he goes. Okay.
At least you were quiet about it, though. Like, because when we had Dave Hobbs producing, Dave would always drop things, like drop the walkie, drop the clipboard. Like, there was always so much kerfluffle in the hallway. Like, you were always super silent. Like, you might be
Right.
like looming in a doorway, but you were quiet about it.
I was always good about being creepy. I was never. I think y'all nicknamed Hobbs Bumbles. Didn't y'all call him Bumbles or something?
Yeah, he had a couple of names. That was one.
That's actually quite a compliment from you guys. If I was actually that quiet, because that's
You had to be, right? You were good at
it. I wasn't hiding from you guys. I was hiding from everything else. I don't think you could ever do a show like GHI again because it was so wild, like, I mean, yeah, we were all of us were kind of nuts to be like, yep, this is what we do.
It's GHI, you've gone on to do a lot of different things, and I think just recently you worked on Penny Dreadful, City of Angels, which was great, by the way. I was so disappointed that it wasn't picked up again.
Yeah.
But, so you said GHI was your first experience, like, working in production until now. Like, what have you learned? What maybe stuck with you from GHI that you've taken with you? I mean, anything that you can talk about?
I will say that, and I remember the crew on GHI telling me this when there would be really tough days, and they looked at me and they'd say, "Listen, buddy, this is the hardest thing you'll ever do." And I've done really difficult things, but GHI was incredibly taxing. And I mean, you had that endorphin under the energy to do it because you were seeing these amazing things. But I mean, I'm sure you guys have mentioned this on your show that like we were going to a new country every week. And, most shows will just like cheat it, they'll be like, oh yeah, we were here for a week. We were doing it in real time. Like we straight up were going to a new country every week, very little turnaround. I don't even know if we had days off. I mean, we just went.
Yeah.
And I will say that I built up there were very few things afterwards that could shake me to the degree that like the challenges, because every new country also presented a new challenge. And a lot of people probably don't because we didn't shoot it, but like you guys had to go through the same challenges we were going through. If a van, was about to fall off a mountain, you guys were with it. I do remember the lack of internet, and like at the time, cell phone plans, international cell phone plans were way too expensive. So there was like 2 company phones and like one person, maybe 2 people got the internet. And I never left the country before, nor had I worked on a show before. My parents were terrified because I'm a sweet boy. And they didn't know what was going to happen to their sweet boy. And we were and I gave them the VP of operations phone number because at the time I worked in the office. I didn't know. I didn't know what anybody's title even meant. I just, he told me what to do. So I gave him a phone number because my parents insisted that I give them a phone number. And we were in some Central American country where they had an attempted coup, and everybody was sick on the crew. And we had one satellite phone as well. And all I see is Hobbs comes out to me and he goes, dude, you got to call your parents. They had called the VP of operations and they were like, where's our son? And he's like, who are you? And they're like, we need to know where Micah Sampson is. And he's like, I don't know who you're talking about. Because, I mean, it's a huge company. So he kicks it down. They tell him the show. He kicks it to the EP. And even, and the EP is like, who? So eventually it goes down like 4 different lines of like very official people before finally landing on us in Central America, and they'd be like, bro, you got to call your mom. And I had to call her on a sat phone and tell her everything was okay. And we didn't have any internet. There was nothing, you were gone.
Nothing. That's it.
Right. Talked about it in I think our last Fuzzy Memories episode prior to the crew, this episode, about the episode that never was, and we were sitting in Singapore and we just didn't know what was going to happen. We were just there. We were waiting for someone to tell us this is what we're doing, and it never happened.
I wasn't even in Singapore, but you guys used it as the term of when something was going to be Singapore.
Yeah.
I was familiar with it. They're like, Singapore. I was like, no, not Singapore. We're not doing Singapore.
Not with Micah here. We're making something.
Not with me. Not with this champ on board. Now, how do I make this walkie-talkie work? No, I think, and just for anybody who doesn't know, I don't know if y'all discussed this in your previous episodes, the schedule was just brutal. So as much as it sounds like we're complaining because like, oh, you got to travel all over the world and stay in, and be with each other and have these wild adventures. It's like, yeah, but you drive 10 hours or fly or whatever it was, scramble to get wherever you are. You're there. We scout shoot the tour. Then, and I don't know how much I'm even really allowed. I mean, it was all pretty real time. I mean, the way it's cut together in the episode, I think is pretty much how we shot it. Mm-hmm. But so it'd be tour, investigate. Oh, that's right. We used to shoot the tour and the investigation on the
same day.
No, like that's crazy talk. You try bringing that to an unscripted show now, they'd be like, if you want us to kill each other, we'll try to do that. And that was Tuesday. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
And then so we'd shoot B-roll. Y'all do evidence review while we were shooting B-roll. So when like y'all were down, and then we'd be doing the analysis. And at that point, oftentimes we were doing analysis.
Revealed
day because they compared it. Remember, they built our schedule based on domestic on the original Ghost Hunters, and they're like, "Hey, what are you talking about? Boston, Italy, same difference."
Yeah, right. Not to mention like the different customs too, because like some people are like, "Oh, we don't work that day." But, like, what are you talking about? Like we work every, but certain like towns like, "Oh no, like Tuesday, no."
Yeah, they're like, it's a banker's holiday or some like saint that died on this day, and we're like, we don't know all we know is go. That is it. Yeah. So yeah, I guess that is like the best education I had was like, was that. And I remember someone pointed out that at the time we broke the Geneva Convention rules for methods of torture, and it was just our work schedule. Like there's like 10 of them, and we filled like 6 of them just by like what we did for work. Because you didn't know where you were going. You didn't know what time you were going to get anywhere. I mean, and it was like you'd be disrupted quickly and often. And I mean, just so everyone is very clear on that, like this was not like some luxury tour around the world. It was you had to be good to go.
What happened on the boat in Tasmania, Micah? Tell us.
I went whale watching, Dustin.
Oh, I see.
I went whale watching, and it was a lovely time.
Oh, good. Oh, good.
It was just I had gone out the night before, and when anybody presents any kind of idea to me in those moments, I'm like, yeah, heck yeah. And they're like, you want to get on a boat at 6 a.m. after staying up all night and doing what you're doing? And I was like, heck yeah, I do. I want to see a whale. And on the coast of Tasmania, the waves are so gnarly, and I was just getting slumped. And I also was stupid. I shaved my whole face except a mustache, and I looked like the most just unpleasant person. And so I'm on this boat thinking I'm real cute, and then suddenly just immediately sick. Ooh, it was rough.
There's a lot of I mean, I can never participate because here I am just approaching 44 and I finally have some scruff, but there's a lot of facial hair on the road, like big beards, weird mustaches. I remember where we were where we shaved Snapper's face and like they did like a time lapse and like cutting off parts of his big beard at one time.
I do remember that.
Yeah, that was a big thing out there.
Yeah.
I think this is what happens when you leave a group of all, I mean, like you were talking about, we were each other's family. We were each other's like protection. And we were also the people that we had to entertain. And I think that a lot of that came as I don't know, maybe it was bonding. I'm not sure what we were doing.
In some way, like cavemen in some way, like bonding. Remember trying to find laundromats and what a challenge that was sometimes? Like, you're going like 2 to 3 weeks at least.
You flatter me in thinking I was trying to be clean at any point. Appreciate that.
You pulled it together well.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that too.
Yes,
there were a couple times I do remember seeing Micah in the same exact clothes the following morning that I saw him the night before.
Right.
So
there was no like walk of shame either. No. It's not like, uh-oh, Micah. It was it was just us all the time.
Yeah.
Like there were and very much like we are family, we hang out, we are always together. So it was like if I was up, you could clock somebody else on the crew who was up with me. And you could usually tell because they probably looked as tired as I did. But
Yeah.
yeah, there was no walk of shame. It was just like, well, time to go back to work.
But that was what was so great. And like I've gone on to work on other like paranormal shows and different things. And I will say, you know, you can call our crew, cast and crew dysfunctional or whatever, you know, we all did things, you know, that maybe now we're like, oh, I can't believe I did that. But we all knew what our job was, and we all, despite how we felt, despite what happened the night before, or who we got may have gotten into a fight with the night before, or whatever it was, the next day you hit the ground running and you do your job. And that's one thing, you know, I may not talk to a great deal of people that, you know, I worked with on GHI now, but I will say for everyone, hands down, I think we were all the hardest working group of people, especially
Really.
young people, that I've ever worked with since.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I've never worked with anybody who played and worked as hard as all of us collectively. And I mean, that like those guys that told me like this will be the hardest thing you ever do, they'd already seen some stuff. So like for them, and no one wanted to leave. It was just an exceptional bunch of people that, you know, were together by fate and circumstance. And I mean, even now we're talking, and yeah, you'll always, both of you guys and everybody a part of that crew will always be my first, and you'll always be a part, like a life milestone for me.